Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. Welcome everyone. Bottom of Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. 2 lines from the bottom, 3 lines from the bottom. V'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Another memra, a second memra in the name of Shmuel. The guy is davening. The guy's already davened, and he walks into shul. We already saw this, but we'll see it again. He walks into shul. He sees that everyone's davening. If he can make up something new, he should say again. If he can't add something new to this prayer, he shouldn't pray again. So now there's 2 memras of Shmuel. There's that memra, and the memra, which is the second wide line, Shmuel says, if you're davening, and you remember, hey, I already prayed, what should you do? You should stop in the middle. So what's the difference? Why, if he realizes in the middle, I've davened, should he stop? But if he walks into a shul, you should try and say something else. What do you need both for? Why do you need both these dinim? Isn't it like the same idea?
No, practically, does that mean you have to say something with new words, or it's a new thought, a new machshava?
New words, yeah. You got to add a filler.
Okay.
Add a filler. One word. You just got to add one word. Add anything.
Does it have to be in Shomei Tefillah?
No, wherever you want. The tzricha. You can't add in the obvious space where you can't add, but take a look in the Sfar. They changed all the brachas. They added everything. I don't know, right? they changed everything. Yeah, don't tell anyone. Every single bracha they changed. I think it looks like it was. I don't know. Okay. Says gemorah v'tzricha. Why do you need both these members of Shmuel? The first member of Shmuel says if you remember them in the middle, then you should stop. And here he says if you can't be machadish anything, don't daven. What's the difference? V'tzricha. The yesh meaning kamaisa. If I would only tell me the first din, I would think harimili yachid v'yachid. I would think, what are we talking about here? You daven by yourself, right? You're davening b'yechidus, and then you realize, hold on, I've already prayed. Take a look at Rashi. Yachid v'yachid. What's he talking about? When he davened originally, he was by himself. And when you forgot that he davened, he forgets he prayed and prays again. What does he do? That's also when he's a yachid. So in other words, the guy davens b'yechidus, and then he was like, "Oh, I didn't daven yet. He's on a vacation. He's by himself. There's no minyan around. So he prays in the morning. He prays mincha 1, and then it's kamishke. He's like, "Oh, I've got to pray," and then he remembers in the middle. Oh, I already prayed, and he's in the middle of a bracha. What should you do? Pesach. So you might think that's only if the second time he's by himself. But if the second time, tzibur v'tzibur. The first time he prayed was with a tzibur, and the second time he's praying it with a tzibur. You might think that if you already prayed the yechidus, and now he's in a minyan, he's in the middle, it's like, oh wait, I prayed the yechidus, I remember I did the yechidus before, you might think you should daven now, finish the prayer. Kamash Milan, the first thing's telling me, Kamash Milan, no. Basically, even if it's now ba tzibur. So why didn't you just tell me the second thing? Because the second din is telling me the tzibur doesn't help. Daven with the tzibur, there's no benefit of the tzibur. Second, even if it's second time around, unless you a mechadish dollar. So v'yesh minyan, just the second din. Just tell me the second din. You walked into shul, and you've already prayed. You know you've prayed, but you see everyone davening. Oh, there's a chance to get another minyan, right? Let me pray again. So no, you shouldn't daven. Daven with the tzibur, don't do it. So, v'yesh minyan hacha mishum delay askil ba. You might think that the reason why you shouldn't daven with the tzibur, that's because you didn't start. But if you would have started, aval mischil, give the askil ba. Aval hasam the askil ba. But if you already started, you might think you should finish. Once I started, I'll finish. That's why you have to have the first din also. So now we know that even if you started, you shouldn't finish. Okay, take a look at the more. We're on Chaf Aleph on the base, 4th line. Amr Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, "Anichlas the basic Knesses." There's a bit of a tricky sugya here. Anichlas the basic Knesses of a motzah tzibur mispalim. What you do? You walk into shul and you see everyone's davening. Happens to me all the time. Im yochel lahaschil veligmar actually yeshatz lemaydim. If you can start Shmoneh Esrei and finish Shmoneh Esrei before the shliach tzibur gets to Maidim, you spell. Then you should daven. Say Shmoneh Esrei. Do it quickly. Finish before the chazan gets to Maidim, and you're good. V'im lav al yispal. If you can't finish your silent Shmoneh Esrei before the chazan gets to Maidim, don't daven. I guess you should daven. You should say Maidim with them, and then you can do your Shmoneh Esrei. And we'll see. Rashi says because if everyone's bowing down for Maidim, and you don't bow down, it doesn't look good. It looks like you're not in agreement with everyone. We're very concerned for the appearances over here, right? So if you can't bow down with everyone in Maidim, don't daven. Like if you're davening Shmoneh Esrei, you should try and time your Maidim with the Tzibur's Maidim. You should wait, hold on, and do Maidim with them. Well, don't say it slowly. Rivala, my Rav Levi says, Im yochal lahaschil v'ligma ad shelo yegiah Shas lekedusha yispalel. If you could start and finish before I get to kedusha, yispalel. V'im lav al yispalel. And if you can't, I'll tell you at the end. V'im lav al yispalel. You shouldn't pray. So, but my comment for you, what's the machlekes between Rav Huna and Reb Levi? He says you got to be started and finished before Maidim, and he says you got to start and finish before Kedusha. What's the difference? What's the machlekes? So, Masava Yachid Eime Kedusha. One guy holds. Rav Huna says Yachid Eime Kedusha. Masava Yachid Eime Kedusha. It's a bit of a machlekes what this means. We should take a look in Rashi. Masava Yachid Eime Kedusha. The mashmai says, right? The basic pshat is since I can say Kedusha by myself, I don't have to finish davening for their Kedusha. I'll do Kedusha by myself.
How do you do Kedusha for yourself?
We'll see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Amen.
Says Rav Huna. Take a look in Rashi. Third line in Rashi. Rav Huna says, "V'yachid hamispal im hatzibur." Listen to this. Rav Huna says, a yachid who's praying with the congregation, Aimer Kadosh. He can say Kedusha. If you're davening with a tzibur, meaning, it's a machlekes how you understand Rashi, if you're davening in a room with a tzibur, you're not davening at home. At home you can't do this.
You're not in sync, but you are in the same room, is what you're saying.
You're not in sync. You're not saying it with the tzibur, but you're in the room with the tzibur. In other words, Dovak Shekadusha needs 10 people. I've got 10 people here. He's learning Torah, he's saying Pesukei D'Zimra, he's saying Krishma, and I'm saying Kedusha. I can say Kedusha by myself. So I don't have to rush finish my Esrei to say Kedusha with this guy afterwards, the Chazan afterwards. I can say Kedusha by myself. That's fine. In other words, so when does it say Kedusha? In your silent Shmoneh Esrei, say Kedusha like you're the Chazan. You say the same thing like the Chazan says. You say Kedusha. There's no minion saying Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. It's fine. You don't need it. That's his opinion. We don't pass him like this. So others want to say in Rashi what it means is take out the word b'tzibur. It means yochid hamispalel, not with a tzibur, without a tzibur. Even without a tzibur, you can say kedusha. Nothing to do with a tzibur. You can say kedusha. You daven by yourself. Say kedusha. Say. It doesn't help you the fact that they're in the room. We'll see Taisus in a minute. So now, keep going in Rashi. Hilchach. Rashi says. Therefore, if you can't finish before the shliach tzibur gets a kedusha, I've got no issue with it. You'll say it by yourself. Aval maidim, but to say maidim, afal pisha yachid aim maidim. Even though you say maidim in Shmoneh Esrei, you say maidim. Im eino aim im tzibur. If you don't say maidim together with the congregation, aroya es kulam kairim v'uay nekaira nira kakaifa. Someone walks into shul, he says, everyone bang down, and you're not bang down, they'll think you're a kaifa. This guy, he doesn't believe in Hashem, he's not bowing down. Therefore, you have to say maidim with a tzibur.
Okay, so how does Rashi deal with where the guy does start with the tzibur, but he's got super kavanah, takes a super long time, and he just doesn't make it?
So, for whatever reason, that doesn't seem to be a problem. The problem is not, you're allowed to
appearance
daven.
is the same, though. You still have a guy who's standing up, everyone's bowing down.
Right, but so what it means is that you got to daven Shemona Esrei, right? You come to shul, you got to. Well, I'm not going to daven Shemona Esrei ever. You got to daven Shemona Esrei, and if you daven long Shemona Esrei, that's your prerogative. You're allowed to daven Shemona Esrei. But if you come late, right, and you're going to blow, and for sure you're going to blow the moedim thing, then don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to look like a kaifa. If you daven Shemona Esrei, you're entitled to daven Shemona Esrei at your own pace. And if they're rushing and they get to Shemona Esrei to moedim before, and that's not your fault. You're right. It's not perfect, but to go ahead and with bemazed. Intentionally, you came 20 minutes late to shul, now you're davening Shemona Esrei, and they're almost up the moedim, you start saying Shemona Esrei. It doesn't look good. You look like a kaifa. It's got to be part of your. It's not more important than davening with a tzibur. If you come on time, you can daven. Also with kedusha, what the guy shouldn't say kedusha. Let's say you're going to daven long Shemona Esrei, you're not going to say kedusha. The gemorah doesn't have a problem with that. The gemorah's only issue is you came late. Now what should you do? You're supposed to start with the congregation. You're supposed to start at the same time. Then it doesn't say anyway you have to finish when everyone else finishes. Happens to be a bit of a machlaikas. Therefore, should the Shas start staying like Chazal Shas, like because the Tircha de Tzibur, I'm one of the Tircha de Tzibur guys. Tircha de Tzibur, start davening, right? Right. As soon as you got 10 guys who finish, start do Chazal Shas. But even though there's 100 people, then they're all going to blow kedusha. If you go fast, they all miss kedusha. It's not nice, huh?
It's like different room.
I think in Kilas HaKodesh of Ramat B'Chemesh, Rabbanim has said you're supposed to wait 6 minutes for Chazal Shas. That's a takana of some of the Rabbanim in Ramat B'Chemesh. Aleph?
Yes.
You had this? I saw a sign. I saw a sign. I'm like, wow, 6 minutes. That's a long Shemona Esrei. In other words, you know how to do less than that? That's a long time. Today I was able to do the whole Shnai Mikveh Targum in the time till they got because they go more than 6 minutes. It's like, so once you say 6 minutes, it's like 8 minutes, 7 minutes. Already, no one wants to be like, it's under 6 minutes.
No, but the Chazan should.
But that's the shaila. What do you do? Do you start Chazal straight away? Tircha de tzibur. People want to go home. People got jobs to do. What do you say? Hold on. Kedusha. People have to give a guy a chance to finish my answer so he can say kedusha. Right?
I've never heard that shit before. That you wait for the entire island.
Not for the entire island, but for Rav. Wait for some people say you should wait for Rav. There's a minute to wait for the Rav. I think it's a big shaila. Shulchan Aruch Rav discusses it if it's a minute shtus or not to wait for the Rav. The minhag item is to wait for the Rav. If there's a rabbi in a shul, in Ramat B'Chemesh just came out no rabbis in any shuls. It's fine. Well, they are a bond, but they daven in different minyanos, so they don't have to wait for them. But there's a thing, the Rav shouldn't drag out Shemona Esrei, shouldn't be machech people. If you're the Rav, people are waiting for you. See, it's you got to turn around and say, don't wait. I guess if it's a tircha de tzibur. Anyway, so that's the kasha. What do you do? What do you do? You came late. You're gonna either miss. Are you allowed to start if you're gonna miss meidim or kedusha? So the Gemara says. But my comifligi, let's back up one line. My comifligi, back to the Gemara. Ma'asav yachilei kedusha. Rav Huna says he's allowed to say kedusha by himself. Yachilei kedusha. Therefore, he doesn't have to finish before the shliach tzimmer gets the kedusha. Or ma'atzav yachid einay kedusha. And the other man that holds yachid einay kedusha. He can't say kedusha by himself. V'chein Amar v'ada barava minayin she'eina yachid einay kedusha. How do I know that a yochid is not allowed to say kedusha by himself? It's actually machlekes if this also applies to kedusha de sidra. You say kadosh 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 in Birchas Krishma. Is yochid allowed to say these things? Or in so some places you say if you say it by yourself, if you love b'yechidus at home, you should say with the nigun of like learning the pasuk of the Navi. I think that's Mishmur brings it down if I remember correctly. Be machmer for the sheep to say yochid shouldn't even say that kedusha by himself. Okay, but Pashas we're talking about Shemona Esrei, right? The kedusha and Shemona Esrei. So minayin she'eina yochid ayim kedusha shenemar. In other words, the kedusha de sidra. You're just saying over the story. This is what the malachim say. We're not being meshabech chasal. In Shemona Esrei, we're saying kodesh 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 is like kilu. We're saying it. In kedusha de sidra, we're saying this is what the malachim say kodesh kodesh kodesh. It's like storytelling time. Story time. So how do I know that Yachid is not allowed to say Kedusha? Someone by himself without a minion can't say Kedusha. It says in the Torah, "V'nikdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael," and I should be sanctified in b'nei Yisrael. Kol dova shebekdusha lo yeh pachas mesara. From here we see that anything that's dova shebekdusha, kaddish, kedusha, it's called dova shebekdusha. You need 10 people for. So my mashna, how do you see it in this pasuk? It says, I'll be sanctified in Bnei Israel. So, my mashma, the Tanya Rabbanaya, Achved Chia bar Abba, the brother of Rav Chia bar Abba said, Asya Teich Teich. We learn Gzer Shava Teich Teich. It says here, V'gdashi Teich Bnei Israel, Ksiva V'gdashi B'Teich Bnei Israel, V'ksiva Hasam, Hivdilu B'Teich Ha'eda Zais. So Teich Teich, from within, from amongst. Amongst means how many people is amongst? I took one amongst. You need 10 to be amongst them, right? That's how you know you need 10. So before we go further, so what's the other man that I'm going to do with this? What's Rav Chaim going to do with this? He says you can't say kedusha by yourself, or Rav Chaim says you can't say kedusha by yourself. So he says there's 10 people in the room. He also goes with his drasha. You have 10 people in the room. They don't have to say the kedusha as long as there's 10 people in the room. I can say kedusha by myself. We're not passing like that. You need to say kedusha with a tzimmer, but that's how he understands the chayra.
And how do we know it's 10?
Because it says Ada is 10.
So the word Ada.
Ada means 10, right?
Yeah,
We know Ada means 10 because there's a Gzerish of Ada from Ada. With Kairach Ada, right? We've done with Ada, and what does it say? Another Hekesh Gzerish of Ada to Ada. So we know Ada means 10. And here it says Teich to Teich. So here it says Teich to that Teich, so it also means 10. So you're right. That Teich, how do you know Teich there means 10? We know Teich means 10 because there's Ada, and Ada means 10 in other places. So that's we know. So therefore we know Ada is 10. It's a good point. I didn't get into it. So, so the Gemara asks, okay. The Kula Alma Miyas Pifsiglei Pasik. Everyone agrees you don't stop to say Kaddish, you don't stop to say Kedusha, right? You don't stop to do Moedim. Everyone agrees. No one's a Chaylak. In other words, everyone agrees you can't say Kedusha in the middle of Shemona Esra. If everyone's done, you've done Shemona Esra, and all of a sudden the Chazak gets up to Kedusha, Rafuna and Ramchia, they both say, you don't say Kedusha, right? What about stopping for Kaddish? You don't stop for Kedusha. Should you stop for Kaddish? What's the din? We haven't discussed this yet. Sorry, we should have been late in Rafuna, that's Machlekes. So, do you stop for Yesh Me'Rabba? So Kios Rav Dimi came up from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Rav Yehuda, Rash, Talmud Rav Yechanan. They both said, Rishesha, Talmud Rav Yechanan, Ami lechol ein mafsikin, chutz mi Yesh Me'Agadol Mevayrach. You don't stop for anything in Shemona Esrei except for Yesh Me'Rabba Mevayrach. Shafilu Isaac v'Ma'aser Merkava Paisik. Even if you're learning Ma'aser Merkava, you should stop for Yesh Me'Rabba. The Gemara says, we don't pass like this. You don't stop even for your Heshvei Rabba. You don't stop for anything. You don't Shemona Esra. Shemona Esra, you until the time Tsar, you don't stop for anything. Once there, you've already finished Shemona Esra, but you're allowed to stop for Kedusha.
For Kedusha, you stop, right?
Yeah. So it says in the Gemara. Take a look at the bottom places. Take a look at the bottom places. Ein Yachab is Spal Kedusha. Well,
Can I ask a stupid question? What down from there?
Chaf Aleph on base the bottom places.
Okay.
Ein Yachab is Spal Kedusha. A Yachab can't say Kedusha. Taisa says V'chein halacha. Okay, that's halacha. We paskin that Yachid can't say Kedusha. V'chein halacha. Aval Mispal Yudches im Achazen. But if you're davening Shemona Esra together with the Shliach Tzibur, you're synchronized with the Shliach Tzibur. When the Shliach Tzibur gets to Kedusha, you should say with the Shliach Tzibur, Nekadesh Chala Kedusha. You should say the whole thing with the Shliach Tzibur. So in other words, you can't take Kedusha by yourself. You're davening Shemona Esra, you can't stop in the middle. But if you're davening Shemona Esra and the Shliach Tzibur gets to Kedusha, says Taisus, you could say Kedusha with the Shliach Tzibur. You say the Kaddish, you say Mechayim Meisim, and then the Shliach Tzibur is getting into Kedusha. You act like the Shliach Tzibur. You say it quietly. You say the Kaddish. Say the whole thing, word for word, the whole kedusha. You say about that. You say not about that. You say the whole kedusha. V'chol kedusha mish aymin ekaz v'chol kedusha mishalim yochel la'anis u'matzibur. Not sure what this mishalim. You say the whole kedusha. You should answer with the same. Ein zeh kara yachid. So if you're davening b'chidus, you can't say kedusha. But if you're davening shmona esrei, and you happen to be at the same place as the shliach tzibur, then you can you say kedusha with the shliach tzibur. As far as your question goes, what do you do if a guy davens long shmona esrei? I had a very holy step grandfather who davened very long shmona esres in his 90s. Every word was like, Baruch, Atah. He was a massive Talmud Chacham, he wrote 20 svarim. And because in old age, he couldn't hear. You have to hear what you say. So his shmona esrei, you could hear him. Baruch, you got to hear what you say. So I could hear. So every shmona esrei, he got to kedusha with the chazan. That's how you daven every shmona esrei. He's Magain Chaim, and you always say kedusha together with the shliach tzibur. That's what people do. If you don't learn shmona esrei, you just say kedusha with the shliach tzibur. Taisvus.
You stop wherever you are, say kedusha, and go.
No. You have to be in line, synchronized with the chazan. Now you could start before him, right? You get to you finish Magain Avraham, the first bracha, and now they start Chazos Shas. You do Mechayim Eisim, the second bracha, and he's doing
So
Chazos
you just wait until
Shas.
you catch up and you're inside.
Either you wait or you synchronize. You get to Mechayim Eisim when he gets to Mechayim. You stand there, you wait for 10 seconds. You get to Mechayim Eisim when he gets to Mechayim Eisim, and then you say kedusha together with the chazan like a regular kedusha. You can say it. I'm not sure why you have to say every word like the chazan. You say every word like the chazan. I guess if you're davening b'chidus, maybe that's what you're also supposed to say. Maybe the chazan is not made to you with those words. I don't know. I'm not sure what I didn't see them all discussing it. In special places, you can't just say Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. You have to say Kaddish, right?
I thought, one second, I thought if you're, probably wrong. If you're Manosh Esrei,
Yeah.
right, what do?
You don't stop for Kedusha.
You only say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
If you're davening Shemona Esrei and you're not up to Kaddish, 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 you don't say it. You don't say anything. You don't say anything. You can only say it if you happen to, that's where you are in your Shemona Esrei. Torah says, if you're in your Shemona Esrei, you're up to Kaddish, 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 so you can say it with the congregation. If you're there. If you're not there, if you're in Maidim, you can't say Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. It's a hefsek. You can't do it. You can only answer Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. That's the Gemara's pasha. It's pasha. The Gemara says it's pasha that you don't stop for Kedusha. According to both Shitas, you don't stop for Kedusha. It's a hefsek. If suki like mafsek, it's a hefsek. What about Yesh Rabbah? You can't stop for Yesh Rabbah either. What about if you're up to Kedusha and Yosh Shemona Esra? Says Taisus, then you can. It's a chiddush because the Gemara didn't say that. The Gemara said, the Gemara doesn't address it. The Gemara says if you can't finish before kedusha, don't start. The Gemara doesn't say start and take your time, press on the gas, hold on the brakes, and make sure you align yourself with the chazan's shot, with the chazan's kedusha. The Gemara didn't say it. The Gemara says if you can't finish before kedusha, don't go there. Stop. Taisus, if you had written the Gemara, L'chaira, it says, you would have said, if you can align yourself with the Chazan and say Kedusha together with him, say it. That's fine, you can start. Because if you have to wait till the Chazan finishes Kedusha, you're way behind the Chazan. Now you're starting Davish Manasa, and he's already up to, at the Chaynan. You're got a lot of catching up to do, as they say, right? Okay. So, keep going. So, back in the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda, another Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Varach Lefneim. Now, Gemara is quoting Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Varach Lefneim Achareim. So, in other words, what's the Mishnah talking about? Back to the Mishnah. Just a quick recap. The last line of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Varach Lefneim Achareim. If you eat, you bench before and after. Okay, what does it mean? Says the Gemara. Are you going to tell me that this means Rabbi Yehuda, the Tana, says that Baal Kari, someone that's good Tumas Kari, he's Tomei, he's allowed to learn Torah? Rabbi Shubin Levi said, how do I know that Baal Kari is forbidden to learn Torah? Shenema, it says you should teach your children. And the next thing it says is Yom Hashamata. Remember the days you stand in the midbar, you stand b'chayrev on Har Sinai. Just like Bar Sinai, someone who was Tumas Keri was forbidden to be a Har Sinai. They had to be punished from the wives for 3 days. They had to be taival. Afkan Bal Kari Surin. So there's a hekesh that says about Kari's a smichas akra that Baal Kari is not allowed to learn Torah. So v'chi tema, are you going to tell me? So what's Rabbi Yehuda say? Why does Rabbi Yehuda say you're allowed to make brachos? V'chi tema Rabbi Yehuda loy dar smuchen. You're going to tell me that the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't darish smuchen. He doesn't learn anything out from the fact that two psukim are next to each other. That doesn't mean anything to him. Rabbi Yosef says, "Man loy dar smuchen b'chol Torah, b'mishul Torah darsh." Even if he's the man damar, there isn't darish smuchen in the whole Torah. But in Parshas Dvarim, Chumash Dvarim, he is darish smuchen. Everyone's darish smuchen in Dvarim. How do I know this? Rabbi Yehuda loy darish smuchen b'chol Torah. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't learn smuchen in the rest of the Torah. In Bereshis, Shmois, Lech Vayera. But Mishul Torah darish, and in Dvarim is darish smuchen. B'chol Torah kula man loy darish, minan loy darish. How do you know that Rabbi Yehuda in the rest of the Torah isn't darish? The Tanya says in the Brisa, we got a machlekes. Benazai Omer, there's 2 psukim. It says, Machshefa leisachaya. Don't let this witch live. V'nema kol sheich v'behem u'maysumas. And also someone that does bestiality, you should deal with him properly. Some inyan loy loyma. So why are these 2 pashas together? Why are these 2 pashas together? To tell me that they both get the same punishment. They both get skila. Rabbi Yehuda asked Ben Azai, just because they're next to each other in the Chumash, you're going to give him skila? How does that make sense? Ella, he has a different drasha. The story of Oiv Yadaini, they were both machshefim. They're both witches. Witchcraft. Why does the Torah talk about Oiv Yadaini separately? To learn from them. From there we learn that machsheva gets skila. Not from the fact that smuchen. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't learn smuchen in Bereshis Shmois Bereshis Shmois V'Yikra, right? He doesn't learn smuchen. But in Mishal Torah he does learn smuchen. Why? But Mishal Torah we learn the dash. How do we know that Rabbi Yehuda in Devarim does learn smuchen? The Tanya. Rabbi Lazai, man, nice other one. This is of it. A person is allowed to marry the woman who's raped by his father. Befus is of it. For someone that was someone who was tempted by the father. Anusas b'nai, mufusas b'nai. The same thing with the son. The person is allowed to marry anusas b'nai, mufusas b'nai. Rabbi Yehuda Iser, but anusas zaviv, mufusas zaviv. Rabbi Yehuda says a person, just like a person is not allowed to marry his father's wife, even if it's not his mother. Of course he can't marry his mother, but let's say his father gets remarried. Is he allowed to marry his father's, and then he gets remarried, gets divorced? Is the person allowed to marry his father's wife? No. What if his father is convicted, he raped the woman? Is his son allowed to go marry that woman? No, according to Rabbi Yehuda, no. From Rav Gidlam Rav, my time, why does Rabbi Yehuda say he can't marry this woman? My time to Rabbi Yehuda, d'chsev lo yikach ish es aviv. It says a person is not allowed to take his father's wife. V'lo yigala es knaf aviv. He can't reveal the corner of his father, like the erev of his father. It's loshon kia. Knaf sharay aviv lo yigala. He's not allowed to reveal any corner, any woman that his father revealed. So in other words, and how do I know this is referring to a woman that he raped? The next portion of Torah talks about a case where Anusa. where she was taken balkacha by force. So here we see that even if his father takes a woman by force, he's no longer permitted to take this woman. Omri in. So that's our kasha till now, right? So you see that Rabbi Yehuda is Dairish in Mishnah Torah, Smuchen, but he's not Dairish in the first 5 parashas, in the first 4 Chumashim Torah, right? So in that case, the original question, we're back to the original question. So Lefi Rabbi Yehuda, how can someone who's a Balkari, we've got this Smuchen drasha, Lefi Rabbi Yehuda, how could a Balkari learn Torah? How can he say these brachas? There's a Smuchen drasha that tells me a Balkari is also to learn Torah. Har Sinai, V'lomat B'neichem, Balkari can't learn Torah. So why does the Buddha say he can't learn Torah? If he is Darish Smuchen in Dvorim, like we've just successfully proved. Amri in B'mishat Torah Dash is Darish Smuchen in Dvorim. Fani Smuchen, but these 2 psukim we need for something else. There's a separate drush of Rabbi Shimon Levi. The Omar Rabbi Shimon Levi, Kol Melamed Lebnei Torah. Anyone who teaches his child Torah, the Torah looks at it like he's received it from Har Sinai. So that's why he used these smuchim for a separate drasha to tell me that if you teach a child Torah, it doesn't have to be a cotton, it can be a gadol also. It doesn't say a bnei cotton. You teach a child Torah, it's like you receive the Torah in Har Sinai. Now it's actually machlegas. It's like who received the Torah in Har Sinai? The father or the son? Masha, I think, seems to be saying it's like the son gets it from Har Sinai. The son that learns Torah from his father, it's like he got it from Har Sinai. Others say, the Pasha says, in Rashi at least, that what are we talking about here? It's like the father got the Torah from Har Sinai. How does that work out? Because when you teach a son, anyone who teaches, Talmud yeshivs, this is my pshat. When you teach a son, you get more than teaching anyone else. So then it's like you got the Torah from Har Sinai. Either way, it's like someone got the Torah from Har Sinai. You or the son. Either way, it's a good what's it called? A good deal. Okay, we're going to have to end over here. Tons of it's in the studio. We'll end over there. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Top of the page.
Whoever wants to make donations to the share, they can do so. Either you can. The best thing is if you email me directly. The easiest number is 9992147@gmail.com.